The United Kingdom finds itself grappling with a deeply divisive issue: immigration. The nation is caught in a maelstrom of passionate opinions, heated debates, and starkly contrasting viewpoints. At the heart of this storm lies a fundamental question: what constitutes a fair and effective immigration policy for the UK? The answer, it seems, is far from clear. With public opinion fragmented and political parties offering divergent solutions, this contentious issue has permeated every facet of British society, shaping political discourse, influencing social dynamics, and challenging the very fabric of the nation's identity. The immigration debate in the UK is not merely a contemporary phenomenon, it is deeply entwined with the country's history. From the post-war influx of Commonwealth citizens to the more recent implications of Brexit, the UK has witnessed waves of immigration that have left an indelible mark on its social, economic and political landscape. Understanding the historical context of immigration is crucial to comprehending the complexities of the present debate. It is a story of changing demographics, evolving policies, and the constant struggle to strike a balance between national identity and global interconnectedness. The issue of immigration in the UK has become deeply polarising, dividing public opinion, fueling political rhetoric, and impacting communities across the nation. At the core of this polarisation lies a fundamental tension between competing values and priorities. On one hand, there is a strong humanitarian impulse to offer refuge and support to those fleeing persecution, conflict and poverty. The UK has a long and proud tradition of welcoming those in need, and many advocate for maintaining this compassionate approach. On the other hand, concerns about national security, economic stability and the preservation of cultural identity have led some to advocate for stricter immigration controls. The fear of terrorism, the strain on public services and the perceived erosion of British values have fueled anxieties and contributed to a more restrictive stance on immigration among some segments of society. This tension between compassion and control, between openness and security, lies at the heart of the UK's immigration debate. The story of immigration to the UK in the modern era begins in the aftermath of World War II. The war had left Britain depleted, its workforce diminished, and its infrastructure in need of rebuilding. The UK government actively encouraged immigration from its former colonies, particularly those within the Commonwealth. This period saw a significant influx of immigrants from the Caribbean, India, Pakistan, and other parts of the Commonwealth. These new arrivals, often referred to as the Windrush generation, were drawn by the promise of a better life. They filled vital roles in the post-war economic boom. Their arrival, however, was not without its challenges. While many Britons welcomed these newcomers, their presence also sparked social tensions and anxieties. The UK, despite its imperial past, had been a relatively homogeneous society. This unease was exacerbated by economic anxieties, housing shortages and racial prejudice. Despite these challenges, the Windrush generation and subsequent waves of Commonwealth immigrants made significant contributions to British society. Their experiences exposed the need for more comprehensive and inclusive immigration policies. As the 1960s progressed, public anxieties about immigration grew, fueled by divisive political rhetoric. This led to the Commonwealth Immigrants Act of 1962, imposing significant restrictions on Commonwealth citizens. The Act ended the era of relatively open migration from former colonies. Further legislative measures in the 1960s and 1970s tightened immigration controls. The 1971 Immigration Act introduced a complex system of work permits and visas. Policies prioritised those with specific skills or family ties to the UK. Anti-immigration sentiment rose, fueled by economic uncertainty and far-right movements. Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech in 1968 exemplified these anxieties. Powell's speech contributed to a climate of fear and suspicion. Tightening immigration controls profoundly impacted UK society. It reduced immigration from former colonies and shifted focus to European countries. This shift had long-term implications for the UK's demographic makeup and labour market. Immigration has been a significant issue in the UK for decades. Governments have struggled with managing immigration and integration. The 9/11 attacks intensified the debate, focusing on security and border control. The 2016 Brexit referendum was a turning point, with immigration as a key issue. Brexit advocates argued for control over borders and reduced immigration. The referendum's outcome highlighted deep societal divisions. Post-Brexit, the UK introduced a points-based immigration system in 2021. This system prioritises skilled workers, aiming for fairness and control. Critics argue it's bureaucratic and creates barriers for refugees. The long-term impact of Brexit on UK immigration remains uncertain. The UK's current immigration policy, implemented in 2021, marks a significant departure from the previous system. Gone are the days when preferential treatment was given to EU citizens. The new points-based system aims to create a level playing field for immigrants based on skills and qualifications. Applicants must accumulate points across various criteria. These include English proficiency, a job offer from an approved sponsor, and meeting the required salary threshold. The system prioritises in-demand skills in sectors like healthcare, technology, and engineering. Critics argue it creates challenges and barriers for low-skilled workers. The long-term effectiveness of the points-based system remains to be seen. The points-based system is just one piece of a complex puzzle. The UK offers a wide array of visa categories, from work and study to family reunion and investment visas. Navigating this system can be daunting, often requiring expert guidance. Family visas are subject to stringent requirements, including income thresholds and English tests. Students must secure a place at a licensed sponsor and show sufficient funds. The UK also offers visas for investors, entrepreneurs, and exceptional talent. Section 3. Asylum, a system under strain. The UK has a legal obligation to provide protection to individuals fleeing persecution, conflict, and human rights abuses. The UK's asylum system has come under intense scrutiny in recent years, with critics pointing to its inefficiencies, backlogs, and the often dehumanising treatment of asylum seekers. Seeking asylum in the UK is a complex and often lengthy process. Asylum seekers must present themselves to the authorities upon arrival and undergo a series of interviews and assessments to determine the validity of their claims. The process can take months, even years, to complete, leaving asylum seekers in a state of limbo, often living in substandard housing and reliant on limited government support. The UK government has faced criticism for its handling of asylum accommodation, with reports of overcrowding, poor living conditions, and a lack of access to essential services. The use of former military barracks to house asylum seekers has drawn particular condemnation, with concerns raised about the suitability of such accommodation and its potential impact on the mental health and well-being of those seeking refuge. The UK's asylum system is further complicated by the issue of irregular migration. Growing numbers of people are attempting to reach the UK through clandestine means, often risking their lives in the process. The government has pledged to crack down on illegal crossings, but critics argue that these efforts often fail to address the root causes of displacement and can put vulnerable individuals at even greater risk. Section 1. A climate of hostility. At the heart of the UK's immigration enforcement strategy lies a controversial policy known as the hostile environment. Introduced in 2012, this policy aims to make it progressively more difficult for individuals residing in the UK illegally to live normal lives, thereby encouraging them to leave voluntarily. The underlying premise is to create a climate of fear and uncertainty that deters undocumented immigrants from remaining in the country. The hostile environment operates through a web of measures designed to make various aspects of daily life inaccessible to those without valid immigration status. Landlords, for instance, are legally obligated to check the immigration status of tenants, while banks and employers face similar requirements. Access to healthcare, education, and even driving licenses has been restricted, making it exceedingly difficult for undocumented immigrants to live openly and access essential services. The rationale behind the hostile environment is to deter illegal immigration and encourage self-deportation. Proponents argue that it is a necessary measure to enforce immigration controls and protect national security. They contend that it discourages individuals from entering or remaining in the UK illegally, thereby reducing the burden on public services and maintaining the integrity of the immigration system. However, the policy has been met with widespread criticism, with opponents denouncing it as inhumane, discriminatory, and counterproductive. They argue that it creates a climate of fear and suspicion, pushing vulnerable individuals further into the shadows and making them more susceptible to exploitation. Moreover, critics point to the policy's disproportionate impact on ethnic minorities and its potential to fuel discrimination and social division. Section 2. The Windrush Scandal. Exposing the human cost. The Windrush scandal exposed the hostile environment's devastating consequences. In 2018, it was revealed that the UK government wrongly detained and deported Commonwealth citizens. Many were part of the Windrush generation, legally arriving as children after World War II. They were ensnared in bureaucratic webs, treated as illegal immigrants. Stripped of rights, they faced appalling injustices. Many lost homes, jobs, and healthcare access. Some were wrongly deported. The scandal sparked outrage, forcing government apologies and inquiries. It highlighted the need for a humane and just immigration approach. Section 3. Collateral damage, impact on legal residents and citizens. While the hostile environment primarily targets those residing in the UK illegally, its impact extends far beyond this group, often ensnaring legal residents and even British citizens. The policy's emphasis on documentation and its creation of a climate of fear have led to increased scrutiny and suspicion, even towards those with a legal right to be in the UK. Ethnic minorities, in particular, have borne the brunt of this suspicion. The hostile environment's reliance on everyday bordering, where individuals are routinely asked to prove their immigration status in various settings, has led to accusations of racial profiling and discrimination. The fear of being wrongly targeted or accused of being in the UK illegally has created anxieties and a sense of insecurity among many ethnic minority communities. Furthermore, the bureaucratic hurdles and stringent documentation requirements associated with the hostile environment have created challenges for individuals seeking to access essential services or exercise their rights. Legal residents and citizens alike have faced difficulties accessing healthcare, renting properties, or even registering their children for school due to the fear of being caught up in the hostile environment's web. The hostile environment, in its zeal to target those residing in the UK illegally, has created unintended consequences for those who call the UK their home, regardless of their immigration status. It has eroded trust in the immigration system, fostered a climate of fear and suspicion, and disproportionately impacted ethnic minorities. The policy's far-reaching consequences highlight the need for a more nuanced and compassionate approach to immigration enforcement. Section 4. A system rife with challenges. The UK's immigration system, with its hostile environment policy at its core, faces a myriad of challenges. Critics argue that the system is overly complex, bureaucratic, and often inhumane, failing to strike a balance between enforcing immigration controls and protecting the rights of individuals. The system's flaws have led to calls for comprehensive reform, urging a more compassionate, efficient, and just approach to immigration. One of the most pressing challenges is the backlog of asylum cases. The UK asylum system is struggling to cope with the volume of applications, leading to lengthy processing times and leaving asylum seekers in a state of limbo for extended periods. This backlog not only prolongs the uncertainty and hardship faced by those seeking refuge, but also strains resources and undermines the system's effectiveness. Another significant challenge is the use of immigration detention. The UK is one of the few countries in Europe that detains individuals indefinitely for immigration purposes, without a time limit. Critics argue that this practice is inhumane, unnecessary, and detrimental to the well-being of detainees. They call for a more humane approach that utilises alternatives to detention, such as community-based support programmes. Furthermore, the UK's immigration system has been criticised for its lack of transparency and accountability. Decisions are often made behind closed doors, with limited avenues for appeal or redress. This lack of transparency raises concerns about fairness, due process, and the potential for abuse within the system. Seeking sanctuary, facing hostility. For those fleeing persecution, the UK holds the promise of sanctuary. Driven by desperation, asylum seekers embark on perilous journeys. However, they often find a system designed to deter and deny. The UK's asylum policies create formidable barriers. These measures have a devastating impact on vulnerable individuals. Those who survive face a lengthy and dehumanising process. The UK's approach contrasts with the principles of the 1951 Refugee Convention. Critics argue the UK's policies undermine the spirit of the Convention. The ordeal of detention, a dehumanising experience. The UK's use of indefinite detention is highly controversial. Detainees face austere conditions, limited legal access, and the threat of deportation. Human rights organisations condemn this practice as inhumane. Many detainees fleeing war and persecution find their lives on hold. The psychological impact can be devastating, leading to anxiety and depression. Critics argue detention is used disproportionately as a deterrent. Many detainees are eventually released, highlighting the arbitrary nature of their detention. Navigating the UK's asylum system is daunting and dehumanising. Asylum seekers face a complex bureaucracy, delays, and the threat of deportation. The process is lengthy, often taking months or years. They must relive traumatic events, their stories scrutinised. Language barriers and lack of legal aid add to their isolation. Forced to live in substandard conditions, denied the right to work. The system exacerbates their trauma, leaving them demoralised. Section 4. Deportation, a cruel and ineffective measure. Deportation casts a long shadow over asylum seekers' lives. The threat of removal creates fear and anxiety, undermining their security. Critics argue deportation is arbitrary, targeting vulnerable individuals. The high human and financial cost makes it counterproductive. Deportations tear families apart and disrupt communities. Deporting asylum seekers to dangerous countries violates international law. The economic impact of immigration on the UK is complex, sparking heated debates and polarised opinions. Does immigration benefit or burden the UK economy? Immigrants fill labour shortages in healthcare, technology and construction. They also play essential roles in agriculture, hospitality and social care. However, anxieties about wage suppression and job displacement persist. Ensuring equitable benefits and addressing concerns is crucial. The impact of immigration on public services is a contentious aspect of the economic debate. Critics argue that newcomers strain public services like healthcare, education and housing. However, immigrants contribute significantly to the UK's tax base, funding these services. Many immigrants work in public services, alleviating staffing shortages. Studies show immigrants make a net positive contribution to public finances. Policymakers must manage immigration to maximise benefits and mitigate negative impacts. Immigrants play a vital role as entrepreneurs, injecting dynamism into the UK economy. Their entrepreneurial spirit drives innovation, job creation and economic growth. Immigrant entrepreneurs bring diverse skills and perspectives, identifying niche markets and fostering trade links. The UK has a history of welcoming global entrepreneurs, recognizing their potential. Government initiatives aim to attract and retain entrepreneurial talent. Addressing challenges like bureaucratic hurdles and access to finance is crucial for unlocking the full potential of immigrant entrepreneurship. The economic impact of immigration is intertwined with globalization. In a globalized world, the movement of people is essential for a thriving economy. The UK benefits from the free movement of people, attracting investment and stimulating innovation, restricting immigration risks, stifling economic growth and deterring investment. Immigrants enrich the UK's cultural fabric and bring new ideas and perspectives. Effective immigration management can enhance the UK's global competitiveness and social cohesion. The UK's immigration policies often have profound consequences for families. Family separation and denial of reunification rights are contentious issues. Critics argue these policies prioritise bureaucracy over compassion. The minimum income requirement for sponsoring spouses is particularly controversial. This policy can force families to live apart, straining relationships and impacting children. The emotional toll on families is significant, leading to anxiety and depression. Critics argue the policy violates the right to family life. The UK's use of indefinite detention for immigration purposes is widely condemned. Unlike other European countries, the UK has no time limit on detention. This creates uncertainty and despair among detainees. Conditions in detention centres are often criticised for overcrowding and inadequate healthcare. Vulnerable individuals, such as pregnant women and torture victims, are particularly affected. Critics argue detention is used disproportionately and causes lasting harm. Access to justice is crucial for navigating the UK's immigration system. Recent cuts to legal aid have left many without access to legal advice. This lack of representation can lead to wrongful detentions and deportations. Vulnerable groups, such as asylum seekers, are particularly affected. Without legal aid, individuals struggle to understand their rights and challenge unlawful decisions. Denying legal aid perpetuates vulnerability and exposes individuals to further harm. The UK's immigration policy is complex and often contentious. The system is plagued by inconsistencies and injustices. The hostile environment policy creates fear and impacts legal residents. The Windrush scandal exposed the human cost of this approach. The asylum system often fails to offer sanctuary to those fleeing persecution. Economic arguments reveal a nuanced reality, highlighting the need for balanced policies. The UK's immigration system needs a comprehensive and compassionate approach. Reforms should prioritise the rights and well-being of individuals. The asylum system must be fair, efficient and compassionate. Indefinite detention should be replaced with community-based alternatives. Recognising immigrants' contributions to the economy and society is crucial. Addressing root causes of forced migration is essential for a just immigration system. The path forward for the UK's immigration policy lies in recognising our shared humanity, understanding that we are all interconnected and that our fates are intertwined. It requires moving beyond divisive rhetoric and fear-mongering. It demands empathy and a willingness to listen. Immigration, managed effectively, enriches the UK. The UK has a proud history of welcoming those in need. It is time to reclaim that legacy, embrace a humane approach to immigration, reflecting the UK's values and its place in the world. It will require political courage and societal will, but the rewards are immeasurable. A more humane system benefits all, making the UK just and prosperous.